This virus crisis has at times shown some people at their very worst, and that's sure true of a New South Wales Labor MP, Shakhet Mosselman, Deputy President of the New South Wales Parliament's upper house, or he was until a little time ago. I'm not sure whether his rumours that his quit are true. But Deputy President, I mean, really, I mentioned this man's raving several times here before. Now he's written an opinion piece for a Chinese university, which praises China for its handling of the virus, resolute, but smashes Australia for allegedly reacting slowly and being racist. He wrote, "Today the obsolete scum of white Australia is once again flooding and the theory of yellow fever has once again surfaced." It's got a tendency to purple prose and to vilifying the people it's supposed to represent. Joining me is a former federal Labor leader, Mark Latham, now New South Wales leader of One Nation in the New South Wales Parliament. Mark Latham, who is this bloke and why is he a member of the Labor Party?
Well, Shakhet Mosselman, I suppose, has been part of the Sussex Street right-wing machine, but why would he be in right-wing Labor? There was a time when right-wing Labor in the 80s and 90s attended to the basics of the interests of the working class: economic growth, jobs, solving poverty, looking after the industrial relations system. But I'm afraid Shakhet is an example of a hollowing out of belief and real purpose, because he's been caught up with these ridiculous statements about the role of the Chinese government. He made the news for locking a Jewish leader out of a so-called Labor multicultural event. So, you know, he's been caught up in foreign issues and aspects of identity politics that have brought great discredit to the New South Wales right. We had Sam Dastyari, we've had Aldi bags full of cash, Ernest Wong, awaiting his report from ICAC, and now Shakhet Mosselman. So, you know, if you hollow out and you believe in nothing, then I suppose money will talk, Chinese foreign influences will talk, and the statements he's made about the coronavirus are just in fantasy land, and attacking Australians themselves in this article in China was the last straw. And Andrew, it is true, he's resigned as a presiding officer of the New South Wales Upper House. I think that's appropriate. He's done the right thing there. And I'm sure there'll be others wanting to get him out of the Labor Party altogether.
But why was he ever in there? Because it's not the first time he's done something outrageous, said something and cuddled up to Chinese dictators. Is it that he's a great puller of the ethnic vote, or what is it that makes him, it seems on the face of it, totally unsuitable to represent a major political party? Why is he there?
Well, this is what happened in New South Wales Labor. He's been a friend and associate of Joe Tripodi and the Eddie O'B machine. That tells you a fair bit, I suppose. And someone who, on Middle Eastern politics, also American politics, is as left-wing as you'll get. He made a speech. I was there defending the great Donald Trump, of course, but Shakhet made a speech saying he wanted Bernie Sanders to be the next president of the United States. Bernie Sanders, as socialist as you'll get. So, you know, you can have left-wing people in politics, plenty of those in the Greens and the left wing of the Labor Party. But how this is now representative of right-wing Labor beggars belief, because right-wing Labor used to be the ballast of the Labor movement, the common sense, the attention to working class issues and interests. So they've lost the plot with people like Shakhet, and it's a bad sign for where Labor has got to, and his statements brought great discredit upon their party. He was disowned by their leader. He's resigned as a presiding officer, and you wouldn't think he's got much of a political future. But how long does it take Labor to clean out their stables? After Dastyari, wouldn't you clean out all these, you know, massively over-the-top Chinese apologists?
Well, I would have thought so. But listen, speaking of China, do you think it should be sued? I mean, shouldn't it bear some responsibility for the cost?
Well, in fairness, of course, China would be paying compensation. How you achieve that internationally, of course, is a very different matter. It's a very difficult task. I think if the UN is to have any useful role in today's international politics, there should be not one of these climate change conferences, a conference about economic recovery and a proper report as to what happened in the origins of the coronavirus, because we know China was supposed to close the wet markets after SARS. They didn't. The first advice on New Year's Eve that went to the WHO about this virus said that it wasn't transmissible between people and it was eminently controllable. That was absolute BS. And then, of course, 500,000 people were allowed to leave Wuhan, even though the city was infected with coronavirus. So, you know, over the years, Andrew, I think I've been pretty even-handed about China, but you can't defend the indefensible. It has acted like a rogue state through this period, which is bad for the international environment, given its rising superpower status. And I think the rest of the international community has got to have a day of reckoning, a period of reckoning about China's role here. And if that was to involve compensation, well and good. But the most important thing, I think, is for China to act as a good international citizen instead of increasingly like a rogue state.
And I think it needs to come clean on just where this virus originated from. I think we are owed an explanation.